Hi, my name is Santo Moss, and this is my testimony. I was one of those cases of nature versus nurture, and that's one of the things that always confused Albert Einstein, and he never could figure it out. And what bothered him was, how can a person be raised in a good environment and end up bad? And how can a person be raised in a bad environment turn out to do good? But I was raised in a good household where I had both my parents in the household, and both of my parents were Christians, and they went to church on a regular, and they raised me up in the right way, and they instilled good morals and values in me. So they did a good job about raising me. But me, I just took a different path in life because growing up, I was a troubled youth. I started hanging around these dudes, and they were into all types of trouble, and I started doing the things that they were doing, and it went against the values that my parents had instilled in me. And I started getting high on weed and snorting cocaine and popping ecstasy pills. Used to sell drugs and rob people and sleep with a lot of different women, and clubbing and drinking and just doing all types of foolishness. And I used to hang around all the thugs and derelicts. And at one point in my life, I was even homeless. I was trying to escape this lifestyle. And in the process, God had called me to teach. God had first called me to teach when I was 18 years old. And God started showing me all of these different signs and symbols. And I did not know what these signs and symbols meant, but I knew that these signs were from the true and living God. Because before God started showing me all of these different signs and symbols, He had showed me visions that had came to pass. And these visions that God was showing me was a way of getting my attention. But I was not receptive to what God was showing me, so I ran from the call. And I figured that if I ran from the call long enough, that God would take the call up off of my life, but it didn't happen that way. So I reverted back to the lifestyle that I was living before God had called me to teach. And I got to a point in my life to where I was so down, depressed, and miserable and mad at the world, to where when I went to sleep at night, I would pray to God to not allow me to wake up to this wretched planet and lifestyle that I was living. And then I would wake up in the morning and I would begin crying. And I would begin to cuss God. I would literally cuss God, because I felt that God was the reason why I was in the situation that I was in. So I tried to go to the church to get help. And when I went to church to get help, some of the same people that were helping me were doing the same things that I was trying to get delivered from. And I just could not respect that. So I said that I was not going to develop this double mind that God said Christians were not supposed to have. So I left out of the church and I was strictly dedicated to the world. I was sold out to the world. I was not trying to pay any tithes. I was not trying to give any offerings. I was not trying to do any kingdom work. I was strictly dedicated to the world. So one day I decided to truly submit to God by making some positive changes in my life. I stopped partying and clubbing and doing all the heavy drugs. And I started to do things that were more pleasing to God. I was a high school dropout, so I went and got my GED. And after I got my GED, I enrolled in college and I graduated from college. And I started to go to church and start to, do some things that will create some positive energy in my life. And the same visions that God had showed me when I was 18 years old started to reoccur in my latter life. And I understand why God allowed me to go through the things that I went through, because it helps me to teach a sensitive message and to have more compassion towards others who went through the same struggles that I went through. Because it's not a good thing when you got people in the world coming to the church looking for help, and then the church folks are judging them. And then these people are leaving back up out of the church and into the world worse off than what they were before they came into the church. And then these people are going home crying themselves to sleep at night because they feel insignificant. They feel like God has abandoned them. They feel like the world is against them. They feel like everybody just hates them. And I know that this is true because I used to be that same person. Because believe it or not, a lot of the people out here in the world do not like the lifestyle that they are living. They want to get up out this lifestyle. They need an outlet. They want to escape from this. They want a better lifestyle. But when they come to the church, they feel like church folks have hurt them or being judgmental of them and looking down at them. And that's not how the church is supposed to be. The church is supposed to be the most loving place it is. We're always supposed to have a heart to help and serve the people. And this gospel is for the unsaved. It's not for the saved. You know, sometimes you can't really just preach the gospel to them. Sometimes you got to meet people where they're at. And once you meet their needs and where they're at, then you can know how to teach and preach the gospel to them. But it's people out in the world that they really won't help. They really do. They want to weigh out that lifestyle that they're in. This is why God called me to teach this dark entertainment message, because I understand the culture, because I used to be a part of it. I used to be one of the biggest hip hop fanatics it was. I used to eat, sleep, and breathe hip hop. I used to hang out at the music studios. You know, I used to go to the concerts, and go to the shows, and go backstage and have met some of these entertainers. And I see how they wield their power through their music. And I see how their music has an impact and a strong effect on people's lives. And how the fans will just do anything just to get close to these entertainers. And believe it or not, a lot of these entertainers want out of that limelight, but they cannot find the outlet. But they want out of that limelight because they're not happy with what Hollywood has to offer them. And the entertainment business is not all glamour and glitz like it's cracked up to be. I'm not telling my life story to glorify the sin. All the stupid, dumb, foolish, ignorant things that I have done. Let me be an example of what not to do. Because what I have done in my past does not identify with who I am now.